So the jury has the case now, and the judge has given basically a close of court at about 4:30. So unclear if he'll have them continue to deliberate until they make a decision or bring him back on Monday. But at this point, from what you've seen, we saw him take the stand, Brendan Banfield, and we talked about this before that. And that's always a 50-50. Will the jury buy in? What did you make of that testimony?
Thank you very much for having me, Marina. I didn't think that his testimony was helpful. I thought that him testifying was a Hail Mary. It could have been that the client insisted on it, and if the client insists on it, you can't stop them. It's their absolute right to control whether they want to testify or not. I don't think it was helpful. He came up with some further excuses, that he had to leave early for work because he had an important work meeting. However, he went to McDonald's, and that's on video. And then the prosecution brought in his boss to say, was there a meeting? And that was denied. So I think we're looking at a quick verdict here. I think the jury in serious cases will oftentimes not rush to something when it's very serious, even though the evidence is very clear in favor of the prosecution. So it may take a few hours, but I think we're looking at a guilty verdicts here across the board.
All right, the jury getting the case at about noon today. So they've been deliberating, give or take, for about 3 hours now. We heard the closing arguments there from the defense attorney, and this is something that most defense attorneys say in closing. The government did not prove the case. There is no evidence that connects Brendan Banfield to the case. That is what the defense alleged in closing. Did the Commonwealth prove their case?
Yes. So I'm looking at this from two different perspectives. The 30,000-foot view looking down, and it looks like it's the prosecution's going to have their day here with this case. They've proven everything. They've connected the dots. It's obvious when you first look at it, and then when you look at all the little micro details, when you zoom in, also guilt looks very plainly established here by the facts and by the evidence, how it played out in trial. So I see from both perspectives. Maybe in the middle, the defense has some arguments to make. They have some points to raise. I think this is clearly going to be a guilty verdict. I think it should come back fairly quickly. And again, just because they don't come back in an hour or 5 minutes doesn't mean that it's not a strong case for the prosecution. It just means the jury is taking their time and taking their job seriously.
Yeah, what you're saying essentially is don't read into the fact that it's been 3 hours and they're still deliberating here. I just checked. It doesn't seem as though the jury has had any question. I know they send those questions to the judge, and the judge may bring the attorneys or an exhibit or whatever the question is, but it seems as though the jury right now handling their work seriously behind closed doors right now. You're a defense attorney. The job of a defense attorney is not to prove the case. It's mainly, unless they have an alternate theory or they've got a case to prove, but mainly to poke holes in the government's case. Were they effective in this trial?
I don't think so. Again, here, if you were just to hear, look, guy says he comes home and just got a phone call and catches somebody else in the bedroom, and everybody ends up dead who he has a motive to kill. It just looks fishy when you first hear of it, and when you really analyze and dig deep, it looks like he's guilty here, according to the evidence. So I think the good thing that we can say is that the defense, when we saw it, we saw our system in action. We don't have a system where just because somebody's accused of something heinous, they don't get a defense. Everybody gets a defense. We saw our system play out. The defense did the best job they could given what they had. I just don't think they had very much here.
All right. I know every courtroom is different, but the judge did say that he would hope to have a close of business today at 4:30. That's about an hour now. The jury has been deliberating now for about 3 hours. How do you think this goes? Do you think they come back on Monday to finish deliberations if nothing's here by 4:30, or would the judge persuade them to continue deliberating if they're close?
Boy, 20, 30 years ago, it would have been that the judge tells them to keep going if they're close. But now with budgets and just modernly, the jury being sequestered, or even getting permission from the court, administration to keep people over on overtime, it's pretty rare now. So I would say that the jury is going to come back Monday morning.
All right, we'll wait and see if they can come to a conclusion here in the next about hour and 10 minutes. We'll be watching closely. Joseph, as always, thank you for your legal insight. We appreciate it. Stay with us. We'll be right back.